Ellie, what kind of wife do you think you are, letting this house fall apart? You'll never be good enough for my son, Madge sneered, her eyes glinting with malice. I froze, the dish towel clutched in my hands as her words sliced through me like shards of glass. My heart pounded, and I struggled to find my voice, swallowing the lump that had formed in my throat. Nate shuffled into the kitchen, his brow furrowed. Mom, what's going on? Don't you see how she's let everything go? Madge gestured around the room, her lips curled in disdain. This place is a mess. You deserve better than this, Nate. I glanced around our modest home, the warm tones and cozy furnishings that had once brought me such comfort, now seeming dull and inadequate under her scrutinizing gaze. That's not fair, Mom, Nate said, his voice wavering. Ellie works hard, and we're happy here. Madge scoffed, her eyes narrowing. Happiness? Is that what you call this? She turned her withering stare back to me. Mark my words, Ellie, you'll never measure up. The words stung, reigniting the doubts that had been simmering beneath the surface. I opened my mouth to respond, but Nate spoke first. Mom, please, let's not do this again. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, his shoulders slumped in resignation. Madge pursed her lips, her expression hardening. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. With a dismissive wave of her hand, she turned and stalked out of the room, leaving a tense silence in her wake. I exhaled slowly, my hands trembling as I set down the towel. Nate, He held up a hand, his eyes downcast. Not now, Ellie. Please, just not now. As he retreated to the living room, I felt a familiar ache settle in my chest. This wasn't the first time Madge had unleashed her scathing criticism, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. Her unannounced visits had become a constant source of tension, her barbed words chipping away at the foundation of our marriage. I longed for the early days, when Nate's warm smile and gentle touch had been enough to chase away my doubts. But now, as I surveyed the kitchen that had once been a sanctuary, I couldn't shake the feeling that the cracks were beginning to show. With a heavy sigh, I turned back to the sink, the water running cold as I scrubbed at the dishes with renewed vigor. Madge's words echoed in my mind, taunting me with the fear that perhaps she was right, that I would never be good enough, no matter how hard I tried. But deep down, a flicker of defiance burned within me. This was my home, our home, and I refused to let her poison seep in any further. I would find a way to prove her wrong, to show Nate that our love was stronger than her bitter words. Even as doubt gnawed at the edges of my resolve, I clung to that glimmer of hope, determined to weather this storm and emerge stronger on the other side. Nate, you need to stand up for us. This is our home, not a battleground for your mother's whims, I pleaded, my voice tight with emotion as we sat down for dinner. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, avoiding my gaze. Ellie, you know how she is. It's just easier to go along with it. I stared at him incredulously, my frustration mounting. Easier for who, Nate? Certainly not for me. I gestured to the grocery bags he'd brought home, their contents spilling onto the counter. I didn't ask for any of this. Nate sighed, rubbing his temples. She said we were running low on a few things. I didn't think it would be a big deal. That's not the point, I insisted, my voice rising. She has no right to dictate what we need or how we run our household. This is supposed to be our home, our life together. He met my gaze then, his eyes pleading. Ellie, please. You know how much she means to me. I felt a familiar tightness in my chest, the weight of Madge's constant interference pressing down on me. And what about what I mean to you, Nate? Don't I deserve to have a say in our own home? His shoulders slumped and he shook his head slowly. Of course you do. But my mom, she's just trying to help. Help? I echoed, my disbelief palpable. By undermining me at every turn? By making me feel like an outsider in my own marriage? Nate reached across the table, his hand covering mine. That's not her intention, Ellie. You know how she can be. Overbearing, sure, but she means well. I pulled my hand away, my frustration boiling over. Well, her intentions don't matter when the result is the same. I can't keep living like this, Nate. Something has to change. He nodded reluctantly, his expression pained. Okay. How about this? We'll set some boundaries with my mom. A routine of sorts. That way, she knows when she can visit and we can have our space the rest of the time. I studied his face, searching for any sign of hesitation or doubt, but he seemed sincere, even hopeful. Slowly, I nodded. my shoulders sagging with a mixture of relief and resignation. All right, a routine. But Nate, I need you to stick to it. No more giving in to her every whim, no matter how much she pushes. This has to be our home, our rules. He reached for my hand again, and this time I let him take it. You're right, I promise, Ellie. From now on, we're a team. As I looked into his eyes, I wanted desperately to believe him. But a nagging doubt lingered, a voice in the back of my mind whispering that this was only the beginning, that Madge's grip on our lives would not loosen so easily. Still, I forced a smile, pushing those doubts aside for the moment. Okay then, a fresh start. Nate returned my smile, his expression a mix of relief and determination. A fresh start, he echoed. But as we began to clear the table, the weight of Madge's interference still hung heavy in the air, a silent reminder that our battle was far from over. I saw you with another man, Ellie. How could you betray my son? Madge's accusatory message left me trembling with rage and fear. I stared at my phone, rereading the words over and over, as if they might somehow change. My heart pounded in my ears, a sickening mixture of disbelief and dread churning in my stomach. With shaking hands, I typed out a response. What are you talking about, Madge? I would never. Before I could finish, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Nate. I drew in a sharp breath, bracing myself for the confrontation. Nate, listen, your mother is making some ridiculous accusation. Save it, Ellie. He cut me off, his voice cold and distant. She saw you, with her own eyes. I recoiled as if he'd struck me. That's impossible. Nate, you have to believe me. Enough, he snapped. I don't want to hear your excuses. How could you do this to me, to us? Tears stung my eyes as frustration and desperation clawed at my throat. Nate, please, just let me explain. There's nothing to explain, he said, his tone laced with finality. It's over, Ellie. I'll have the divorce papers drawn up first thing in the morning. The line went dead, and I sank to the floor, my body numb with shock. Divorce papers? Just like that, without even giving me a chance to defend myself? Anger flared within me, hot and searing, momentarily overshadowing the hurt. How dare he take his mother's word over mine? After everything we'd been through, everything I'd sacrificed to make our marriage work? I clutched the phone, my knuckles white, as a torrent of emotions threatened to overwhelm me. Betrayal, disbelief, rage, they swirled together in a toxic maelstrom, leaving me gasping for air. The sound of the classroom door opening jolted me back to reality. I hastily wiped my eyes, struggling to compose myself as my students filed in. Mrs. Wilkins, are you all right? One of them asked, her brow furrowed with concern. I forced a tight smile, my heart still pounding. I'm fine, dear, just a little family matter. Nothing to worry about. As the class settled in, I moved mechanically through the lesson, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. How could Nate believe such an outrageous lie? And from his mother of all people, the woman who had made it her mission to undermine me at every turn? A bitter realization began to take root. Nate's loyalty would always lie with Madge, no matter how outlandish her claims or how deeply she hurt me. In his eyes, she could do no wrong. By the time the final bell rang, a cold resolve had settled over me. If Nate was so quick to turn his back on me, to discard our marriage without a second thought, then so be it. I would not beg or grovel for his trust, not when it was so clearly misplaced. As I gathered my things, a plan began to take shape. I would not go down without a fight. Madge might have struck the first blow, but I would be the one to deliver the final, decisive blow that would sever her toxic hold on our lives once and for all. With a deep breath, I dialed Carly's number, my voice steady and determined. Sis, I need your help. Think about your actions, Ellie. I'll be back in a few days to see if you've come to your senses. Nate's words lingered in the empty house, a chilling reminder of his betrayal. I sat on the couch, numb, as the weight of his words crashed over me. How could he take Madge's side so easily, so completely? After everything we'd promised each other? Anger flickered to life within me, pushing past the initial shock and hurt. I would not simply accept this, not after Nate had dismissed my perspective without a second thought. Carly's voice rang in my mind. Sis, I need your help. Of course, I had already confided in her, my ever-loyal sister and confidant. If anyone understood the gravity of Madge's interference, it was Carly. I reached for my phone, fingers trembling slightly as I tapped out a message. I'm ready to take your advice. Meet me at home in an hour? Her reply was swift. You got it. I'll be there. I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve. This was no longer about trying to reason with Nate. That path had been blocked by the stubborn allegiance to his mother that he seemed incapable of overcoming. No, this was about reclaiming my life, my autonomy, and refusing to be a casualty in Madge's war against our happiness. The minutes ticked by slowly, the silence in the house pressing in on me like a physical weight. But I refused to be cowed, to let Madge's manipulative words take root. This was my home, my life, and I would not surrender it without a fight. At last, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Carly, her expression a mix of concern and determination. You look like you've been through the ringer, she said, enveloping me in a hug. But I'm here, sis. We'll get through this together. I nodded, ushering her inside. You were right, Carly. Madge has gone too far this time. I can't keep living like this, constantly under her thumb. Carly's eyes narrowed. So what's the plan? You know I've got your back, whatever you decide. I took a deep breath, the words coming easier now. I'm done trying to appease her or make Nate see reason. It's clear he's too deep in her toxic web. I need to protect myself, to get out before this drags me down any further. Carly nodded slowly. Okay, then, what do you need from me? Just be there for me. Help me figure out the next steps. I can't keep letting Madge control my life, our lives. I looked at her, my jaw set. It's time to take a stand. She reached out, squeezing my hand. You've got it. We'll get through this together, one step at a time. I'm not going anywhere. As I met her gaze, I felt a flicker of strength, of determination. This was not the end, but a new beginning. Chance to reclaim my life and break free from the toxic dynamics that had threatened to consume me. And with Carly by my side, I knew I had the support to make it through, no matter how difficult the road ahead might be. All your things are at your mom's, Nate. I've submitted the papers, I stated, feeling a surge of freedom course through me as I stood in my new minimalist apartment. Nate's eyes widened, his mouth agape. What? Ellie, wait. No more waiting, I cut him off, my voice steady and resolute. You made your choice, Nate. Now I'm making mine. He ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of disbelief and desperation. But how did you even manage all this so quickly? A small smile tugged at my lips. I had help from someone who actually has my back. Carly emerged from the bedroom, her arms crossed defiantly. That's right. We've been busy while you were off playing the obedient son. Nate's gaze darted between us, his brow furrowed. Ellie, please, let's just talk about this. We can work it out. I know we can. I shook my head, my resolve unwavering. There's nothing left to work out, Nate. You chose to believe your mother's lies over me, your own wife. That's not something I can just move past. Carly stepped forward, her expression hardening. You really messed up this time, Nate. Ellie deserves so much better than the way you've treated her. Nate's shoulders slumped, and he turned to me, his eyes pleading. Ellie, I'm sorry. I was wrong, so wrong. Please, give me another chance. For a moment, I wavered, the familiar tug of emotion threatening to weaken my resolve. But then I remembered the sting of his betrayal, the way he had so easily cast me aside at his mother's whim. I've given you too many chances already, Nate, I said, my voice thick with emotion. This is it. This is me taking control of my life again. His face fell and he nodded slowly, seeming to finally grasp the gravity of the situation. I understand. I don't know how to fix this, but I'll respect your decision. Relief washed over me, a weight lifting from my shoulders. I had expected more resistance, more pleading and excuses. But in that moment, it was as if he finally saw me, saw the strength and determination that had been there all along, buried beneath the weight of his mother's manipulation. Carly stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, sis. It's time to start fresh. I nodded, offering her a grateful smile. Thank you for everything. As Nate turned to leave, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I felt a pang of sadness. Despite everything, a part of me still loved the man I had married, the man he had been before Madge's toxic influence had taken hold. But I knew, deep down, that this was the only path forward. I had to break free, to reclaim my life and my sense of self. And with Carly by my side, I knew I had the strength to weather whatever storms lay ahead. As the door closed behind Nate, I took a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle over me. This was it, the first step towards a new beginning, a life free from the toxic dynamics that had threatened to consume me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope, a sense of possibility unfurling within me. The road ahead might be uncertain, but I was ready to face it head-on, with my head held high and my spirit unbroken. The shrill ringing of my phone cut through the silence, shattering the fragile peace I had found in my new surroundings. I glanced at the caller ID, my heart skipping a beat as Nate's name flashed across the screen. With a steadying breath, I answered. "What is it, Nate?" "Ellie, thank God," he said, his voice strained. "We need to talk. In person." I hesitated, the old doubts and insecurities threatening to resurface. "I'm not sure that's a good idea." "Please, Ellie," he pleaded. "Just give me a chance to explain, to make things right." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a nearby cafe. As I made my way there, my mind raced with possibilities. Was he finally ready to listen, to see the truth? Or was this just another attempt to placate his mother's whims? Nate was already seated when I arrived, his expression tense and haggard. He rose to greet me, but I held up a hand, maintaining a safe distance. "All right, Nate, I'm here. What is it you need to say?" He took a deep breath, his gaze meeting mine with an intensity I hadn't seen in months. "Ellie, I was wrong, so incredibly wrong about everything." I felt a flicker of hope, quickly tempered by the lingering sting of his betrayal. "Go on." Nate reached into his pocket, retrieving his phone. With a few taps, he forwarded me a photo of Tom and me, embracing in what was clearly a warm, familial hug. "Look closely, Nate. It's my brother, not some affair," I said, my voice laced with a mixture of vindication and sadness. His shoulders slumped and he nodded slowly. "I see that now. God, Ellie, I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you, should have listened to you from the start." I studied his face, searching for any hint of deception or manipulation, but all I saw was remorse, a man finally confronting the harsh reality of his mistakes. "Why now, Nate?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What changed?" He ran a hand over his face, his expression pained. "My mother, she admitted it. Admitted that she lied, that she saw you with Tom and twisted it into something else entirely." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Of course she did. And you believed her, just like that." Nate nodded, shame etched into his features. "I know, I have no excuse, Ellie. I let her manipulate me, let her poison our marriage with her lies and control, and in doing so, I lost the most important thing in my life." I felt a surge of anger, hot and searing. "You're damn right you did. Do you have any idea what you put me through, Nate? The pain, the humiliation?" He flinched at my words, but didn't try to defend himself. "I don't. I can't even begin to imagine how much I've hurt you, Ellie. All I can do is beg for your forgiveness and a chance to make things right." I studied him for a long moment, weighing his words, his remorse. Part of me ached to forgive him, to try and salvage what we once had. But a larger part, the part that had been forged in the fires of Madge's cruelty, remained guarded, unwilling to let him back in so easily. "I need time, Nate," I said finally. "Time to process all of this, to decide if I can ever trust you again after what you've done." His face fell, but he nodded in understanding. "Of course. Take all the time you need, Ellie. I'll be here, ready to do whatever it takes to earn your trust again." As I turned to leave, I felt a strange sense of resolution settle over me. The truth was finally out, laid bare for all to see, and while the path ahead was still uncertain, I knew that I had taken the first steps towards reclaiming my life, my identity. Madge's web of lies had been unraveled, and it was up to me to decide what came next. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly in control of my own destiny. "We can still fix this, Ellie. I'm sorry. I didn't know." Nate's voice cracked over the phone, but I felt only a cold resolve where his mother's words had once held sway. "What's done is done, Nate," I replied, my tone firm. "Your mother has had her hands around our lives for too long." There was a pause, and I could imagine the pained expression on his face as he registered my words. "You're right. God, you're right. I'm so sorry, Ellie. I should have listened to you, should have had your back instead of letting her pull the strings." I took a deep breath, willing my voice to remain steady. "Well, she can't reach us anymore. This time we're doing things my way." Silence fell, thick and heavy, as Nate struggled to respond. Finally, he spoke, his words laced with resignation. "You're right. She's had her grip on me for too long. But Ellie, please, don't shut me out too. I know I've got no one to blame but myself, but I need you to know that my loyalty lies with you now." My heart twisted at the naked emotion in his voice. For so long I had longed to hear those words, to know that his allegiance wasn't hopelessly tangled up in his mother's manipulations, but the hurt ran too deep, the pattern too ingrained. "I want to believe you, Nate," I said quietly, "but beliefs were your mother's currency, and she spent them well. I can't go back to being caught in her web." He was silent for a long moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "You're right. You're right. I don't deserve a second chance, not after everything. Just know that I'm sorry, Ellie. Truly, deeply sorry for letting her come between us like she did." I closed my eyes, letting his words hang heavy in the air. There was a time when they might have swayed me, when the sound of his voice might have melted the icy barrier that had formed around my heart. But that time had passed, and the only thing left was the resolve that had carried me through, the determination to never again let Madge's toxic influence bleed into our lives. "I know, Nate," I said finally, "and I believe you mean those words. But this time, it's not about what you or your mother wants. It's about what I need, what we both need to move forward, to leave that misery behind." There was a pause, and then a soft exhalation, as if a great weight had finally lifted. "You're right," he said simply. "You're right." And in that moment, I knew that no matter what words he might have uttered, they would never again hold the power to sway me. The ties that had bound me to his mother's manipulations had been severed, and the only voice left ringing in my ears was my own, a voice of strength, of resolve, and of the freedom to chart my own path forward. "Here's to new beginnings, Ellie. You deserve it," Carly toasted, raising her glass as we sat together in my new apartment, the warm glow of the setting sun filtering through the windows. I clinked my glass against hers, a small smile tugging at my lips as I felt the weight of the past few months lift ever so slightly. "Thank you, sis, for everything." Carly waved a dismissive hand. "No need to thank me. That's what family is for. Being there through the tough times, no questions asked." I nodded, taking a sip of my wine as my gaze drifted around the minimalist space. It was a far cry from the cozy home I had once shared with Nate, but in its simplicity, I found a strange sense of peace, of possibility. "It's going to take some getting used to," I admitted, "but I already feel lighter, you know? Like I can finally breathe again without Madge's shadow looming over me." Carly's expression hardened at the mention of my former mother-in-law's name. "That woman did a number on you, Ellie, but you're free of her now, free to live your life on your own terms." I let her words sink in, savoring the truth behind them. For so long, I had allowed Madge's toxic influence to seep into every aspect of my life, slowly eroding my sense of self, my confidence. But no more. "You're right," I said, my voice steady and resolute. "No more letting her control me, no more sacrificing my happiness for her twisted idea of what a family should be." Carly reached across the table, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. "That's my girl. You've got this, Ellie. And you're not alone. I'll be right here, every step of the way." Gratitude welled up within me, a warmth that had nothing to do with the wine or the fading sunlight. Carly had been my rock through it all, the one constant in a sea of turmoil and uncertainty. Without her unwavering support, I might have faltered, might have succumbed to the doubt and self-recrimination that Madge had so expertly cultivated. "I don't know what I would have done without you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You gave me the strength to stand up for myself, to break free from that toxic cycle." Carly's expression softened, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and affection. "You had that strength all along, Ellie. I just helped you find it again." As we lapsed into a comfortable silence, I allowed myself to truly envision the future that lay ahead. A future free from the constant weight of Madge's criticism, free from the fear of never being good enough. It would be a journey, to be sure, but one that I was finally ready to embark upon, with my head held high and my spirit unbroken. The road ahead might be uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of excitement, of possibility unfurling within me. This was my chance to redefine what happiness meant, to build a life on my own terms, without the toxic influence of those who sought to tear me down. And as the last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon, I raised my glass once more, a silent toast to the new beginnings that awaited, beginnings that were mine and mine alone to shape and embrace.